special day of natural half-bald mohawk. That's just how it does, isn't it? Whatever. See, I get all this stuff that I want to talk about in my head, ready to roll, and then I turn on the camera and then I look at my head, and then all that stuff's in there? Oh, crap. What a horrible place to put it. So, I've cleared a little platform anticipating this. I'm gonna let y'all look at the reef tank. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. My wife has instructed me to wish you a happy Thanksgiving on her behalf. She is currently picking up my sister. She gives me the choice of driving. Well, she asked me if I can drive, and I say it's just like any other day. I can drive there. It's just a matter of how much you want me doing when we get back. After I drive, that's when the difficulties set in, you know? But anyways. So, today I wanted to talk about inequity in society. I wanted to talk about pettiness, selfishness, narcissism, ungratefulness. I figure, you know, Thanksgiving's a day where a lot of people pat themselves on the back and say, we're thankful for this. And I'm just thinking, are you really? If you're really thankful, if you really know where it comes from, if you really know that the sustainment of your life is beyond you, no matter how independent you think that you are, man. It takes a community for a human being to live a life that can sustain their sanity. It can actually sustain them in general. Petey, what are you eating, man? Okay, piece of leaf. Alright. Just do your thing, dude. But today, one of the things that propagandized people seem to not have a very good grasp of is the basic sense of thankfulness that keeps a society functioning, especially an American society in secular terms. But, you know, the point of the promotion of my particular strain of logic is due to the basically fascist brainwashing of Christians. So what I want to do is provide an alternate Christian viewpoint. And it is the proper Christian way to run a society, to manage a society, to consider your society. For everyone in it. And we've we've really lost touch with that. And few of the here and there, some of the fundamentals, and some of the, well, macroeconomic concepts that seem to have been lost on people. But first, I'm going to scribble down a few things to make sure I cover them all while I give y'all a nice little view of the fish tanks. Or the reef tank. How about the reef tank? Hopefully this little platform will not collapse and my cell phone will not fall into this little thing because there's water in it. Yeah, that would suck. As you can see, the rose bubbles have both moved back into the pot, back in the back. But they seem to be happy back there. They can certainly escape the current when they want to. And the clownfish don't mind. The clownfish are in heaven. They got they got a fucking flower pot with anemones in it. I mean, shit. Those are some happy clownfish. Anyways. I think it's time to frag some shit in this tank. What do y'all think? It's getting a little overcrowded in there. I was starting to wonder why my Australian Duncan hasn't split, because it seems like it was getting irritated by the caulerpa and kept from splitting. But it looks to me like it's just getting bigger in diameter, so maybe it was just a little baby polyp to begin with. But I think I'm going to convert this into a frag tank soon. I think I'm going to take all the live rock out of it. I'm going to have the anemones in the flower pot in there. And then a shelf with some frags on it. Because I'm just tired of the fucking caulerpa. Anyways, enjoy that for a second. I need to reflect on all the crap I have been thinking about since I woke up. So I don't get caught up in one thing and then forget to say other shit. Because I do that a lot in a broadcast because I don't have anybody else, you know, being like a producer or anything like that, trying to help me fucking remember what the hell I was talking about. I think Sean Conway is the closest thing we have to a producer around here. How's it going, Mr. Conway? He was chatting earlier this morning, so you might see him on the broadcast. Okay. So, about corporate lordship. Evolution of resource distribution. That is over time, historically. See, there were some smalls that were rather introspective and meaningful. What the hell was I thinking about? I need like an assistant with a notepad just to follow me around all the time. Because while I'm doing 10 other things, I think about shit that needs to be on the channel for posterity and whatnot. I've been thinking about how possible 0-point modulation could be used to make a faster than light drive system, but that's probably not for this video. I was doing pretty good on the viewers until I titled a video of a Russian active measures campaign, infection with a K. Yeah, speaking of which, let's talk about bioengineering. Yep. Humanity cannot make the case for itself as long as humanity is engineering bioweapons. Sorry, you just can't. Your whole society, the entire world has failed as long as those fucking things are there. We're going to talk about that in a second. Let's see here. Maybe the history of my viewing will help me out. I remember some shit. We're going to talk about the history of social media. How about that? See if there's any lessons about ungratefulness we can learn there. I definitely want to talk about this this Jewish reporter guy. Looks like a normal white guy, happens to be Jewish. Who was targeted in a very similar manner that I was on Facebook. And let's see here, what else? Fish are happier in aquariums than in the wild. Mr. Talbot, if you happen to be watching, sir, I agree 100%. Or if you happen to see this in the future, which he occasionally watches. Because, well, there's one thing Australians miss about America. It's the genuine crazy fucks that we used to have in common. And I am one such genuine crazy fuck. So say we all. Oh, there we go. Slavery. Yeah, that's kind of a slavery. In Afghanistan, oh, and don't forget drought. Drought, yes. Because drought is what's coming. In fact, drought has been happening in certain areas of would-be Russian expansion. And there's a certain prophecy that I used to think actually applied to America, because I was brainwashed. I was propagandized. I was ungrateful. I was wondering if anyone else would join us today. Not too shocking. Not terribly surprising. Chief Justice John Roberts has issued a rebuke. This is a rare occasion when the Supreme Court issues a rebuke of the President of the United States. Not that Trump was actually the president, but you know, we can all pretend, right? I will never acquiesce that point. I'm used to living in a world full of morons, so I'm not surprised that so many people could be so wrong. I'm not going to submit to peer pressure and give up on being right just because a bunch of morons have agreed to be stupid together. But that's all I see when people call him the president, is a moron. You have found a degree or how no matter how wise your decisions may have been in life. If you call Donald Trump the president, you are severely lacking in the basics of societal wisdom. And that, to me, is the definition of a moron. And what is the basis? The basis. The basis of the basis of the basics of the basis of the boosas. I don't know. I just watched Beavis and Butthead do America, so I got a little cornholio left in me. No, I won't. This is my favorite shirt. I can't stretch this out anymore. Done two. 30, between 30 and 500 is a good guess. Cornholio impressions in this shirt, because I've had this shirt since I had my own landscaping business when I was 13. And I know, because this is the shirt that cigarette packs don't fall out of when you bend over. Because you just get a nice little tiny pretty square titty, you know? What? But I remember I went on fishing trips in this shirt. I remember it took forever for the collar to get broken in on this shirt. It used to be stiff neck collar. Back when I was about 212, 220, I used to look pretty good in this shirt. Now it's just like a shirt. It's really soft. It is broken in. I mean, this fucking... Does it have the brand anymore? Izod. Oh, look, I just took off my shirt not really realizing it. Because I'm in my fucking living room and... Welcome to my home. Okay. That is the result of having only drank half a cup of coffee. I can only seek to blame it on that. But anyway. I'm just gonna dwell for a second. Oh, I was hoping to feel actual embarrassment. It's like, I know what embarrassment feels like. It's like I just want to feel it for a second because it's entertaining. No, not really embarrassed. Fuck am I good? Then again, I wish I could have been taking my shirt off on a live stream, 20 years ago. Wasn't quite as pale and... Anyways. I'm starting to wonder if this is the right shirt, or maybe this is like just a clone of the shirt that I think it is. Do I have two of these shirts and I don't know it? I don't remember it being fucking Izod. This motherfucking... Wait a minute. I think we have an imposter shirt. Now I'm gonna go... I thought the shirt that I was thinking of was Hanes. See? So according to this data, what one can conclude is that the cranial capacity of a human being, once stretched to the limits of constantly trying to solve all of the world's problems, isn't very good at noticing little fucking things. But seriously, this is like the same goddamn shirt. Just, see that? That's different. And I don't think... See, that would have been a dead giveaway if I'd angle in the pocket right there. But otherwise, it feels exactly the same. It fits exactly the same. I don't know about these stitches, though. These stitches not very Hanes-ish stickers. That's like one of them, like, back when it was a trend to, like, look inside out, but it wasn't, you know? You have the same shirt. The Hanes one or the Izod one? The fuck is Izod? What happened to Hanes? Hanes didn't fucking... Here, let's talk about ungratefulness. Hanes didn't set a good enough standard in fucking t-shirt making. I mean, we had Hanes and we had Fruit of the Loom. Perfectly good American companies providing good jobs. Where the fuck is this made? How many people that would be employed at a continually expanding series of Hanes manufacturing facilities? If we just had a little gratefulness. You know? I don't recall any other place in general inventing the t-shirt, you know? So the people who invented but the communist overlords at YouTube don't approve, so now I have to reconnect my fucking broadcast. Now you see, this should be the same for any country that invents something. Any place people were raised on that nation's education system. That village raised that family. This is how proper society works. Not necessarily how it fucking works, and it's how society should work. That nation passed laws that allowed that educational system, that allowed those towns and communities to function properly, to encourage those kids who would one day invent the t-shirt. Okay. And furthermore, the economic structure of that society enabled investors to say, that's a good invention. Let's build more. And then people who had cloth looms and factory equipment and shit got together and people formed companies called Fruit of the Loom, Hanes, and they refined the whole process of making t-shirts and underwear and, you know, all kinds of different things that, well, man, if you like this, just like me, you know, you'll never find an inventor with only one invention. If you like this, I got a whole fucking notebook of shit to show you, okay? Well, Mr. Fruity Looms or whatever, you know there's a guy. There's always a guy. His parents fucking made him study some shit, and he fucking took it seriously, and he went and invented some shit, and a lot of other fucking hardworking people came together and made a company and refined a process to make a product line. Okay? And that society, while many other, and I'm going to speak more about reality and less about hypothetical because this actually fucking happened here. That society, acknowledging these new processes that we've invented to produce more shit, they're not so good for the people. So we need to have like 40-hour work week and like weekends and hazard pay and employees compensation and, you know, all those things that pesky Democrats support. And then you know, obviously our society, as it was starting to get its Civil Rights Act together, was then infiltrated and inundated with ungrateful people from Russia that just couldn't stand to see humanity itself progress. Because that's all that was happening here in America. And they sought to destroy it because they were ungrateful. They were iniquitous. They were greedy. But that's beside the point. But just picture, you know, the Mercedes-Benz company, right? Apple, Microsoft, they're two very different approaches to making a personal computer. The PC platform, the Apple platform. It's apples and oranges. Two good American companies. Just like Haynes and Fruit of the Loom. Two different people who had similar ideas. Those companies exchanged a few people here and there, just like Microsoft. There's been a lot of examples of this. But these companies, these people, refine the process of manufacturing these things. Just like many different countries in many different parts of the world have refined processes for doing things, and nobody does them better than they do. And then some people with a bunch of money from oil or just playing the market get together, essentially with some Russian agents or Chinese agents or some foreign government who says, it doesn't matter that we're dishonoring ourselves by failing to compete with our contributions. No. We're going to take their inventions. We're going to take their process. And we're even going to try to pick and choose what we want I'm starting to think someone is a little too pleased with the weather they've been having. They pick and choose what aspects of that society that created this product, that created this process to mass produce things. They pick and choose what they think can turn their workers into better workers. What can keep them more distracted? What can keep them more submissive? And they know all too well to make them more placid. Can be all too easily turned in against their own people. Actuated in its ungratefulness. Because you don't want them to stop and think, fuck, maybe we're being ungrateful. You don't want them to stop and think, maybe this is wrong. Maybe these people don't deserve this. In fact, you don't even stop to think about the basic, obvious truth. Everything you've been told to hate about your so-called enemy is an aspect of the results of your invasion. Fools. And now we're back on the charger. DuckTales. Ooh. Okay, sorry. I just... Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. That was the best thing I've ever done on the channel. Okay. Wah, 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 wah. Oh. I wish I could do more. I wish I had more to offer with that. Like, if only I had like a black glove or something. Looking around, got nothing. But anyways, so should somebody just only be able to make their own products forever and only they get to do it? No, of course not. That's what patent laws are for. And how patent laws should be decided. Well, during an ideal situation or actual peace, patent laws should be based upon the extension of the economic waves caused by that factory's or that general type of invention, like, say music and the way we do it here in America, for instance, and international patents is kind of the same way. Music and like a food patent or a medicine or a physical technology or a digital technology are all going to be, patented for different lengths of time and have different parameters for the restrictions on them. Okay, excuse me. And that's based upon how important that is how much it takes to develop that type of patent. You know, obviously physical and digital technologies are things that should have longer lasting patents, right? Um, but unfortunately, we haven't based these things or our enforcement of these things, especially in the past 15, 20 years, from a national security perspective. From the standpoint of, well, we need to be a little bit protectionist when it comes to certain things so that we maintain strong diplomatic footing when it comes to alliances and when it comes to enemies. And, you know, at a certain point, even though this is the nation of all nations, and the reason why we have so many great inventions that have come from here is because we have so many people from so many places. Our greatness is because of our interculturality. I don't know if I said that right, but still. You try getting your fucking head stomped on by a 450-pound motherfucker 5 times before you even goddamn get a chance to defend yourself and see how well you speak. Okay. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't wake up and whoop 3 people's asses like I did. Anyway. You know, as I forget over the years, and eventually I will forget the play-by-play of that fight, I will never forget the moment 10, 12 hours before, maybe 20 hours before, that I saw him during transfer, you know, when they take you from one holding tank to the next. Just to keep you off fucking balance, just to keep you unrested, basically. Yeah. In America. Hold that thought. The one thing I will always remember is seeing this guy. Exactly my height, okay? So this guy is just past 6'3", okay? And he was 4 of me the fuck wide, okay? And that normally isn't enough. You see, usually bigger guys are kind of slow looking. Usually. Okay? Not necessarily slow physically or slow mentally. Not necessarily both. Could be one of the two. But, you know, occasionally, you see the guy who you know could be a fucking linebacker. Because they got that sharpness in their eyes. They got them high cheekbones. They don't look like they've been sitting like this a lot. They look like they go get it, you know? And this guy had cheekbones which I can only refer to as Kenyan cheekbones, okay? This guy had them. Like if I was to say the High Prince of Nubia, you'd picture them fucking cheekbones? Like how that guy looked? That's how this guy looked, only 450 fucking pounds. 480 maybe, okay? There's no way he was below 390. Okay? You know, there's only so much you can misjudge with baggy clothing. I don't want to sit there and exaggerate, but there's no fucking way. This guy was 4 of me wide. Right now I'm 170 something. His cheekbones, seeing the look in his eyes. You know, seeing his breeding quality, seeing his fucking genetic evolution. It's an advanced human being right there. Is not someone to be taken lightly. The prime example how someone can maintain some Nietzschean forms of thought like I do and be completely not racist. Okay? Instantly based upon his genetic quality as a black man. I recognized him as the one fucking person that I had seen in that entire 15 fucking holding tank. We're talking JP lockup downtown. I mean, basically the biggest area by New Orleans, right? It's actually more population in New Orleans lives in Jefferson Parish than actually living in New Orleans. Okay, there's a few different cities that are like that. I hear Atlanta's like that. Like people say they're from Atlanta, but they live in these different suburbs and shit. Well, it's like people say they're from New Orleans, they really live in Metairie, or Jefferson Parish, or Canterbury. You know, in New Orleans. But I don't think I've lived in Orleans Parish unless I was homeless. Anyways. Dingo. So yeah. Like you. And then got my hands positioned to fucking grab his leg. I might forget which way I grabbed his leg, but I will never forget seeing that motherfucker's face and just knowing, just thinking, I hope I don't get in a fight with him. Like, anybody else in here, no fucking problem. But that guy, oh, fuck, effort. Oh, God, effort. Anyways. Like, okay. All I'm gonna say about that is, like, if you can't tell the difference between the genetic quality of, like, Eddie Murphy and Lil Wayne, okay, you don't have a sufficient observation genetics. Like, it's just, you know, like, I'm not sitting here claiming to have fucking flawless genetics. I just have good enough genetics to be able to analyze genetics. I analyze my own genetics. It's not like my fucking teeth grew in perfectly. But I tell you what, there's a lot as far as the current genetic structure of mankind in general we can't do a lot about. We can sure as hell learn a lot from it. Like, for instance, we can learn that ancient Jews were some wise people. We can learn anecdotally. We can learn through circumstantial evidence that there were a lot of polytheistic, hedonistic cultures that have failed to recognize things beyond their scientific understanding. And in fact, in many cases, you can't even give them credit for having basic societal understanding. And yet these are, some of them, now major religions. Apparently, I'm not allowed to speak out against marrying underage girls. And taking slaves and I mean, maybe not according to the writings, but according to the statues, according to the carvings. To anybody, the Far Eastern shit is all pure and everything. Take a look at some of them wall reliefs. I don't know how to put this in a way that's funny enough to say. But let's just say Daddy's Girl was a thing. You will see some shit that you cannot unsee when looking at those those northern temper, nothing normal about them, northern temple statues and wall reliefs. You know, there's a reason why they usually focus in on the Buddha when they show Westerners the touristy parts of it. But you know, you can make what you want of the Vatican basically having a portrayal of a prophecy of Lucifer's eventual cleansing and redemption. And you can twist that into they worship Lucifer. But they don't statues of little girls sucking on daddies. Just saying. Just saying. You wonder why you go up in the mountains and then people's fucking teeth look like that. People who sell their daughters. They sell their daughters. You know, if they sell them, even in a family where it's shunned upon, That's sure a convenient out, right? Oh, we got to sell this one quick before the time frame don't line up. Suddenly I hear John McCain singing. No, wait. Wrong country, John. But it works. In Afghanistan right now, there's a drought. I just saw a story about a 6-year-old girl who got sold for $3,000. And she's on layaway. Ow. 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 I think I just wanted my head to hurt until it hurt just then. Ow. Now, it seems as though this is one of the more kosher arrangements, because this guy has a 7 or 8-year-old son, and he says it's for him. But the people there told the reporter, that the previous week, a 20-year-old man had purchased a 4-year-old girl. Now, you ever read the Old Testament? Can you consider what, before any semblance of religious structure, certain tribal areas might have been reduced to behaving like? When there was no United Nations, no BBC, no Amnesty International, no Red Cross, nobody looking in, nobody offering help for sure, but nobody even interested in what they're doing. Now, when it said, judge not lest ye be judged yourselves, bear in mind that when you judge God and say that he was being too harsh in deciding that an entire people should be wiped from the face of the earth, way back then, consider how bad it might get. You can see how bad it can get today. Normality occurs in waves, okay? And that purchasing of children that's going on right now in that area, how far do you think that wave of that being normal spreads? Just a few hundred miles? A few thousand miles? When you pass 20 billion people, then there might be a reason for someone to starve. Enough. To have to, I don't know, make their kid cut grass. Anything short of that is fucking inexcusable. And it is the result of, guess what? Fucking ungratefulness. It is a result of macroeconomic dysfunction on a global scale. You see, globalism failed because it was sabotaged. Sabotaged from without and from within. Sabotaged even by the people who should have been the ones who were providing a stabilization force, you know, who were responsibly active in these things. Now, everybody has their own responsibility to not be brainwashed morons. But the fact remains, the world has been ran now by brainwashed morons. Since Bill Clinton lost power? Since Putin gained it? Same exact time, by the way. But we didn't notice because of the time in question. We were all partying like it was 1999. Because of the weakness of ministry, the eventual non-denominational or interdenominational strength of American churches, and it was starting to be seen that strength lied in interdenominationality in the 80s. People stopped holding each other accountable, and we lost the potential for having a society that held itself more accountable. Basically, a society that converted people to proper Christianity by nothing but example. That's what America was headed towards. Okay? On the one hand. On the other hand, you had MTV. You know, you had the hippie movement. You had the Wiccans. Of course, you've always had heavy metal Satanists. But the vast majority of people who voted, either Democrat or Republican, you see all of these different, countercultures subsided as exactly that, countercultures. And none of them really felt like their vote mattered. But then, it became a nonpartisan thing, now blamed on the Democrats, that we should just make it a popular, trendy thing to vote, even among people who really aren't that well informed. And the fact of the matter is, they were targeting their audience. And their audience was targeting, or their objective in gaining an audience was essentially getting people away from this new interdenominational church culture that was developing in the United States. But you see, as much potential as had been gained in the 80s, there were still some fundamental flaws in our belief structure that were being exploited more and more, that made us ripe for the basically total hypocritical collapse that occurred in the 90s once we thought the Cold War fell. Once we thought the Cold War was over, once the Berlin Wall fell, once the defensive minds among us were either placated or silenced. Oh, giant fucking gash on my arm with huge scab sticking out of it. I know that's just not something I should be doing right now, but I can't fucking resist. I don't like hard shit sticking out of my fucking thing, catching on my shirt while I move. That doesn't really appeal to me. It's almost healed. It's almost healed. All right. Bad habits on camera. Yay. Speaking of which, so some of the subtle dysfunctionality that was essentially ungratefulness disguised as prophecy. I'm covering the camera, stupid blanket. Okay. Were things like the Hagee prophecies. Christians shouldn't be going around acting like Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, it might be nice if they were as active and determined as Jehovah's Witnesses, but something tells me Jehovah's Witnesses get paid by the hour. I don't know. Your religion's based on a guy who made a magazine that didn't fucking get anything right. And as far as the ancient gods and this name that you keep using, I don't think it means what you think it means. Show me in the Bible where it says Jehovah created. Not Yahweh, not Elohim. Yahweh. Jacob. He who fought against God and won. This is some mind-blowing esoterics, which most people just aren't ready for. So I suppose I should move on. Because it is beside the point. It's fascinating, but it's beside the point. But Jehovah's Witnesses, man, really. I resist the urge every time they come. I resist me. You know I want to so bad. Just I know how much I would enjoy myself, and then I sacrifice that for the greater good. I resist. Because as fun as it would be, it won't fucking do any good. You see, the thing is, for me to think that it would do any good, I would have to believe that they believed the bullshit they were peddling. And now that I see televangelism having actually managed to get people on TV to refer to Christians as evangelicals, and now we have basically Paultians instead of Christians. You know, Paul was the evangelical, right? My friends. Didn't Joel Osteen just basically just do a Paul impression? No. Now there's a fine example of someone whose family tree I would like to analyze. That guy's face is some kind of fucked up. I'm sorry. He looks like a demon possessed, like, I'm pretty sure his cross is just flat too. No, never mind. Anyways, the way that guy blinks though. My friends. I can't do the Ferengi. He's got like a Ferengi face. Could it be aliens? No, I'm sorry. That was funny for me, not so much for y'all. What you gonna do? Like leaning over all awkwardly just to be in the fucking camera frame right now. And what's that in the background? That is, rubbing alcohol. At least it's sanitary. So, what was that thing I was getting off topic from? Oh yeah. How we were brainwashed through pseudo-intellectual understanding of prophecy and scripture into being apathetic douchebags as a religion. If you do them to be seen of men, for your reward, to gain heavenly reward, you do works in secret or without the objective of getting credit. Like, it's like being like Santa Claus. You know? Bring your neighbor's trash can back to their house for them or something like that, right? Help an old lady out. Like fucking mow your neighbor's grass. Before aliens cut my grass. Thank you, aliens. It's funny how the broadcast is always interrupted right when I get to the need-to-know parts of the information. A special kind of hell is waiting for somebody, that's all I can say. I may not know now, but there's a part of me that exists without time that knows exactly who you are, where you are, and everything that you've ever done or will do. And that's who you're fucking with. But as for me in my present form, I'm just along for the ride. Okay. Houston, we have a problem. Other than the broadcast being interrupted every single time I make a very important point that, like, people in our government need to be fucking discussing right now. They literally need to have a meeting between the CIA and the fucking prayer breakfast or something. What is it, the National Religious Leaders Council, or what? I don't even know the name of the body. I suppose I should. Improper interpretation of prophecy. The molding of Protestantism into an anti-government psychological warfare tool actually happened in this country. And people wonder why I'm back? You don't think that would interest me? You know, me? You don't see why I might be, frustrated? Irritated? In kind of a sarcastic, douchey mode? Or why, after all of your failures, after all of the lies that you've swallowed, how you would presume to identify me? I would continue to laugh if it wasn't just so sad. Because when such mistakes have such dire ramifications, I can't exactly allow myself to be amused, can I? Although, at some point, what else is there to do? Certainly, Google has left me a few other options. And you might know what I'm talking about already. You might not even need me to explain. You see, the poor and the hungry will always be there. Right? Paul? Right? Evangelicals? And God's going to reshape the earth soon because the world's about to end. So these environmentalists are just a bunch of heathens, atheists, liberals that you don't need to listen to. I've been to church in Texas. I know what the fuck they said. Okay? When you wonder why Republicans are Republicans, that's why. Where did that interpretation of prophecy and scripture come from? That's what you need to ask. That's what you need to find out. Who was promoting the people that agreed with those things in the beginning? Trace it back. What you'll find is a mixture of clanists and Russian agents, basically. And what you have to do is expose these people among their own flock as wolves in sheep's clothing. Because there's nothing a conjugation, a conjugation, or a congregation, whichever you prefer, enjoys more than a history lesson that teaches them something about themselves and their country. That brings us all back together. Because it doesn't take much to take those words of men and find words of Christ that contradict them. And as far as, really? Taking care of the environment goes, not only are you not supposed to act like you know the hour in which I return, but wouldn't you think that based upon the principles of stewardship and just the logic you've been given by your Creator, people who didn't act thankful, people who act ungrateful, like spoiled children, when it comes to the environment, when it comes to the very essence, the very purest form of God's gifts to you, nature, the providence of reality, you take it for granted. Getting a little too pissed off to fucking speak here. Wouldn't you think that perhaps if this doomsday was upon you, judgment day is coming, that's probably more of a reason to take care of the environment and each other and your neighbors and even your enemies. But I forget I live in a world that reads the Bible and doesn't even know what a fucking Samaritan was. Don't know what a Magdalenian referred to. Whores. Really? Not high priestesses of the ancient line of Judah. No. It's a little town with a bunch of whores. We're historians. We're smart. If I wasn't such a nice guy, I'd make a list of names and just slit all your fucking throats. Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to say that out loud. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's called chivalry. And in the greater scheme of things, let's face it, morons and liars are two things that the world's better off without. And anyone who fucking called themselves an expert and decided it was okay to tell other people that Mary Magdalene was a whore. She wanted a divorce from a man she was forced to being married to. A 17-year-old girl. You call her a whore. And that's what you call the world around you. As though you've paid some great purchase for its use. Sorry. Tell me I wasn't there. I'm going to try to show the fucking holes in my feet again so the live stream will suddenly lag. A multitude followed a man, a prophet who spoke words of wisdom. They listened but could not understand the paradox of his great truth. I don't need anyone to tell me. For instance, that Google is evil. However, you need me to tell you that Google is evil because of reasons other than America and Illuminati and George Soros and the Bilderbergers. You need me to tell you that it's for some other reason than the reasons that were given to you by the people who seek to destroy you, by some other source than Russian propaganda. More, just the past couple of years. And I can't see them all at once and spit them out like a database. That's why I make these videos. So we can go back and forth through the timeline, analyze. Go back through the timeline and analyze and explore and discover. And see the live stream go offline every time I make too much sense about shit. And learn how society got so broken so that we can learn how to fix it. And the basic thing that every father needs to teach their children, the basic thing that every mother needs to teach their children, the basic thing that holds society together. It's a theme that we can analyze that was being taken away from us. It's our gratefulness, our thankfulness, our recognition of what we have around us and in each other. Imagine if all the white people that complained about Mexicans got together and planned some sort of a business model based on that labor, some labor compromise that they were willing to accept in the government even, to re-irrigate the entire fucking Southwest. Imagine all them fucking protests, all the energy, all the political dollars spent keeping other Christians, mind you, by the way, which most Mexicans are Christians, which, I don't mean to offend any liberals, but, we're talking about Christians or people calling themselves Christians, and they got something here, right? It's something worth pointing out. It's not very fucking Christian of them. But just imagine how many hundreds of millions of dollars, billions probably, have been spent. Imagine how much manpower has been wasted. Instead of border patrol, we should have recruiting centers. We should have a set fucking migrant wage and basically job assignment centers at the border. Come there and fucking apply for a job. We have a plan. We need you to get some shit done. Don't just have them going out and fucking picking oranges. Have them help on major fucking infrastructure projects. Have you ever worked with Mexicans? They're not fumbling around. These are fucking expert, talented, skilled, smart people. Most people don't know this, but, you know, it's very hard to do carpentry without trigonometry. So that pickup truck with the 8 Mexicans in it, 2 of those guys can do trig. Can you? And they will sit there and sharpen a fucking pencil with a knife and do a formula on a piece of wood and have a little calculator. A little fucking, like a little school calculator. And we treat them as they're the Mongolian horde. You know? What the fuck is that? You know, I'll use this as an example. I have a nephew who's half Mexican. My sister's son, the one who passed away, her son. His mom died when he was little. His dad's a multiple convicted felon. This kid has his own little restaurant at 19 years old. Starting with a little fucking stand and building up into like a little trailer-based deli where he sells Tex-Mex dishes. Pretty fucking impressive. Somebody want to tell me that they're the master race and he's lesser than them? That kid will fucking run circles around your ass. And me. In fact, I dare say he was the beneficiary of 2 very well-established lines in 2 different cultures, and you know, is a fine example of a beneficial mixing. He seems superior to both, in my opinion. Got the best of all the traits. He's so much cuter than I ever was. He has got to be knocking them ladies over, I'm telling you. So I could like vicariously live through him for a while. Okay. Keep grabbing lighters that don't work. It's not working. Because they don't work. I don't fucking know where mine went. Stole my wife's. Okay. So, anyways, um, hmm. The whole religious justification of a political agenda and the coordination of that process by foreign powers is not something new. And it's pretty idiotic to consider it something new and to not be looking back through history and to try to find patterns, directional patterns of where these things come from and why they're deployed and what kind of effects they have. I need to clean my protein skimmer. You can see them now on YouTube trying to justify Trumpism with prophecy. And you can see them, a couple hundred years ago, historically, when you look at how the different feudal sects within the Catholic Church, and then within Protestantism, and then within the Church of England and Protestantism and Catholicism, it just kept on getting divided and divided and divided, didn't it? That's no coincidence either. You see the lines on the map, how they've changed over the years, and the dissemination of this propaganda need to be basically algorithmically coordinated to paint the fullest picture. Including political demographics in a given country that's undergoing these assaults. And that's what they are. They are assaults. To spread false, basically subtle anti-societal seeds as prophecy. It's the first edition of cyber warfare, the first edition of information warfare. Because when it came to informational dissemination, historically, religions were the avenue. So you can't you can't wonder whether there's some ancient force behind this, or whether or not people today are just mimicking people of the past. The fact of the matter is it's happening. And we have to learn about the past and how these people, in acknowledgement that they are mimicking it, how these people, how our enemies, how Vladimir Putin views his history, how Vladimir Putin views our mutual history. You know, like the fact that we bought Alaska right after the Civil War from the Russians, and the Russians could have been involved in the Civil War. What does that mean to you? Maybe not much. But what does that mean to Vladimir Putin if he thinks that's the case? If he thinks that California and Alaska originally belonged to them and that they were basically going to have an alliance with the South and basically should have a referendum there to vote entry into the Russian Federation or whatever. If he sees those as historic, strategic objectives of his land, if he sees himself and his heredity as having proper claim over it, doesn't that mean that it's true? It's true enough to act upon, is all I mean. You know, it's not like true. We don't know. I wasn't there. Some people wrote some shit down. Some other people wrote some other shit down. Who do we believe? Well, at a certain point you have to say, I don't know. But realize that other people might not see things the same as you do. And you need to act accordingly. Adolf Hitler thought the Germans should possess all of Europe. The Russians think that Russia should possess the whole world. Same thing with Islamic extremists, which has been fomented. Islamic extremism has been fomented, has been funded, propped up, and amplified by communist agents from former Soviet Socialist republics that prove that Soviet doesn't mean Slavic, doesn't mean white people. In fact, if I had to disambiguate the word Soviet, it sounds Mongolian. So, Viet. So that's a prefix. I'm not quite sure what it means. And then armies, basically. Or kind of, would it be nomads? There's something there. Some human knows it somewhere. So I just can't pull it out. Anyways. I'm certainly not a specialist in Mongolian, but I can certainly see the connections throughout several Asian languages there. Just like I can see the connections between Greek and Mongolian and Russian or other Russified dialects. If anybody ever had a claim to being the master race for all the wrong reasons, it would be the Scythians. The Scythians. Disguisians. That's a good word for them. Disguisians. It would be the Disguisians. And with that play on words explains why historians can't make a whole lot of sense about them. Were they Greeks? Were they Siberian nomads? What were they? There we have the last time the Scythians are really mentioned in history. Is one of the first instances in which we fail to understand it on a catastrophic level. The time of the four great powers. Celtic, Greek, Persian, and Scythian. Now, the Celts and the Greeks fought a little. The Scythians and the Celts fought a lot. The Scythians and the Persians fought a lot, but not quite as much as the Greeks and the Persians. But there could be, easily, in the instance of the Scythians and the Persians, much more conflict than is known by history because of the area in which it would have occurred. But there is plenty on record. Howdy, Mr. Conway. Thought I might be seeing you. The broadcast is going to have to be wrapped up shortly, but I'm going to prolong it until I hear a truck pull up. Anyways, the Greeks were part of sort of a, not an alliance, but a community of the Mediterranean. And didn't really have the ability to project an army. But the Scythians, having been through ground war after ground war, and basically having been for ages basically the place that you would buy slaves from in Crimea, okay? You would see Scythian merchants everywhere, okay? We look back at them now and we call them Phoenicians. We have this mystery culture here and there. They're fucking from Crimea. They're Scythians. They're a proto-Greek civilization that about 3,000 years ago allied themselves with the Greeks so that the Greeks would not ally themselves with the Celts. Okay, and that's why you have the separation of Greek and Celtic civilization. And at the point where Alexander wanted to invade Persia, the Scythians, who were the enemies of the Persians, were all too happy to help, because then the Greeks could not be called upon by the Celts when half of Europe was taken in a dark part of history. And then, from the ashes of that invaded Europe, you have the rising of, oh, evil Rome. I was trying to remember some veracity, some, I don't know, I was trying to allow myself to have a memory jogged by the story of Romulus and Remus. Nope. Sorry. That sounds like a bullshit cover story, but if it's a coded bullshit cover story that, like, I could decipher, possibly, I got nothing. Maybe I should consider that a little more, but yeah. That's a weird little story. Doesn't exactly have a lot of whys, you know? To me, stories generally aren't true when they don't either directly express a why, or more likely, if they don't subtly imply a why, if you can't see the why on the basis of the facts, you know. The connecting thread becomes the why. There's no why. Anyways. The point was that Celtic Empire that Alexander existed to turn a blind eye from, while the Scythians basically created what is now known as the Germanic Saxon, not Old High Germans at all, basically Vikings. That European kingdom that they annihilated and basically pushed to the sea was called Magdalenia. And it apparently was a series of whorehouses. No. No. It was a place, one of the last places on Earth, that was unconquered by this horde. And if you look, say, to the land of Kush, where before this, historically, you had halls of records of the ages of mankind, that was all destroyed, and this little area was all that was left, and they had records of from mythical beings, proto-beings, proto-human and the reincarnation patterns that were derived from having coordinated conceptions. Yeah, not just when you were born, but when you were actually conceived, and the family that you'd be conceived to, lining that up so that you could choose where you'd be reborn, basically. That was something that society coordinated. Imagine that. It wasn't for everyone. It was just for people who accomplished things. If you didn't accomplish things, you didn't even really have a name. You might have had a nickname, but a nickname doesn't necessarily carry. If enough people loved you, if enough people cared about you, your birth would be tracked. But it wasn't something that people who didn't have a reason to perpetuate themselves would seek after. People who didn't have a reason to perpetuate themselves would be seeking renewal. So they wouldn't want to know. Yeah. If there's no reason to be bored, do something exciting. Flip a coin. Roll the dice. Pull a card out of the deck. And see what is life. Anyways. So we have had from the time of at least the Crusades, ignorant actions, ignorant strategies, even ignorant philosophies being perpetuated by singular individuals. What was the guy with the so-called People's Crusade? Yeah, he was a real winner. But a fine example of one of the first communist agents to infiltrate Christianity and become a leader among us. But wait, communism hadn't been invented then. Really? Attila the Hun wasn't a communist dictator? Genghis Khan wasn't communist? The Mongolian horde isn't a communal nomadic society? It's always been. You all share what you got. And I'll make sure I have enough to make sure that you all share what you got. That's communism. That's Stalin, right? Stalin. You all share what you got. Everybody share. I'm going to keep all of this to make sure that you all share. Because someone has to enforce your sharing, and they have to be rich and have everything they need so that they can give it to you when you need it. No, so that they can pay people to punish you when you get out of line. That's the horde. So I'm looking at these notes here, and I don't think I have time to get through all of them. There's notes that I wrote down out loud during the beginning of the video. We've talked enough about a few of them. And some of them that I didn't talk about much, I talked about them while I was talking about it. The list. So if you'd like to see that, go back to the beginning of this video. Otherwise, I'm going to keep these subjects to go back through during the next broadcast. Because what we've talked about is all still worth mentioning. However, this last thing on the list fits perfectly at the end of this video. The nation that rules from the fourth part of the earth with the hunger and with the sword. Oh, sudden wave of nausea. Really? Damn. The source of hunger right now, it's not the weather. It's our lack of a sense of responsibility. And that comes directly from how divided we are and how corrupt our religion has become, our philosophies in general have become. And I used to think that in that prophecy was America. You know, two places that are suffering the worst famine right now? Two places that I've been saying Russia has been moving into long before, eventually, other people managed to figure it out. That's Afghanistan and Syria. The drough's been going on for 4 years now in both those places. Just goes to show that when you try to resist the horde without recognizing it, all that's left is desert. So instead of looking at history from the point of view that seeks to mock people for their arcane beliefs, why don't we revisit history in a way that is thankful for the wisdom that our forebears had to give us the society that we have today, and recognizes that maybe they were right about some things. Maybe if we understood some of their actions better, we might understand ourselves a little better and know what the hell to do with ourselves. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to click the like button if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed, because, you know, it makes me happy. And if you're not already getting notifications, please make sure you're getting notifications so you can be informed of future broadcasts and stuff. Thank you. Bye-bye. I think I still need a nap. I'm just going to settle for more coffee. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.